detached from the chart window, which is what you guys are looking at, but it's not the actual chart that I'm looking at and trying to keep Discord up. Uh, so it could be kind of busy. I guess I either, and the thing about a widescreen that I don't like is that it just doesn't give me the vertical space. I feel like that I want to put all the different things on my chart, you know. So Ryan, did you catch all that about what the CVD is telling us and why it's important? Yeah, like this morning, I'm just looking at the chart here and it yeah, I mean it sold off pretty hard, swept a low, and then it kind of, consolidated. It's rallied. Yeah, it hit like a VWAP extension, but at some point like it flipped, right? Like there's aggressive buying even though prices dropped, there's aggressive buying. And so to me, it's like, okay, I need to try to figure out which side is actually going to be in control. And sometimes it's easy to get in alignment with that, and other times it's not. And there's a little bit of an art and a science to it. And where they where the art and the science meet is can be difficult to delineate, I guess. So I think that's why, I tell folks like if you just focus on buying and selling the levels, right, themselves without worrying so much about the divergences and kind of the more artsy, esoteric elements of it, then I think that you can do fine with it. Um, it's just that when people don't understand what's kind of going on underneath the hood, so to speak, of the market, they don't understand the order types. They don't understand that a market order is an aggressive order. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. I used to really believe that institutions didn't, don't use market orders, but they absolutely do. They're constantly, they're using whatever tools they have in their toolbox to adjust their positions. So if this thing breaks this RTH load right here, then we'll probably have to flip. Leon, you also asked about trading on the 5 second chart. Um, this is a 30-second chart, and I think any 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 lower time frame chart is fine. The reason why I like to use a 5 second chart is that it really helps me spot, little like micro divergences between price and between the delta. And that's really it. You're still looking at the same levels, right, on the CVD chart. You're just looking at them in such a way that, um, again, it's just kind of a zoomed in approach. But whatever, I've never said, and I never will say that this is like using the delta is the only way to trade. You can absolutely be profitable without using delta. Just understand, just by focusing on good trade location, right? But um, it's just kind of how my trading has evolved over time, and it's perhaps maybe not the easiest thing for folks to understand. So Boy, these buyers, I thought they were going to be a little more aggressive there, but they are not. Let's see what happens here at this 1K level. Yeah, I feel like since this weekly VWAP didn't hold, pretty strong rejection off of this, that it's probably going to go lower. Maybe down into this quarterly or monthly, we might actually get to push some follow through this. Just taking a look at this, um, I guess I would be more leaning short. Strong push down, strong push down. It could very easily end up down here today. But buyers can step in at any point in time. They're trying to here, but I don't know that they're going to be able to. I didn't realize that I was again still set here at 5 micros. I'm in too big on this and I don't like that, so we might have to take a little bit of heat on this. I'd much rather only been in 1 micro. So, RTH opened, aggressive buyers came in, didn't hold it. That's very telling, right? That tells me that the sellers that are in the market are really leaning on the order book, right? And when I say leaning on the order book, what that means is that when there's aggressive selling coming in, they're backfilling it with the limit orders. The buyers are even though the buyers are aggressive, they're having a hard time overpowering. They're basically being absorbed. To me, it looks like on the sell side of things. So it'll be interesting to see how far down it goes, or if they do really step in and start to go higher. Yeah, I would feel a lot better about DCA and into this if it was just 1 micro, but I went in with 5. I'm gonna buy it down a little bit here because buyers are going positive again. And let's see if it holds. If it doesn't hold, then I'm gonna have to get out of this. I don't want to start the day off in a big hole. I like it again. We've dropped, we haven't quite swept the low yet, but we've dropped, and buyers are trying to go positive. Let's see if they'll hold it. If not, then we'll get out with an L. I want to just check and see this real quick. See. Okay. So that's the low right there. I didn't think I had it marked right. That's the low from yesterday. So let's see where we are in relation to that. Don't want to go too much lower here. Come on, buyers. Okay, come on, boys. I don't have my background music going today. Get that queued up. So we're getting some fresh buying coming in. If the buying breaks this RTH high, then I think it will, this would probably be the low. Again, I'm just, if the buyers break this RTH high, then this will be the low of the day and it will continue higher. So we're back positive, not fully positive in the sense that, like I said, it's flipped this, but yeah. It's tough because you see the order flow shifting and its price is still drifting lower. That's what I was telling you guys is that sometimes I'll get into positions too early, too heavy, and you have to take an L and kind of reset. Right. Right. Yeah, for sure. And that's where I think, you can look at um, just basing it on the delta levels themselves, I mean, like you could buy one micro at negative 1K. And if the one micro at negative 1K doesn't hold, maybe again, your parameter is when it gets to negative 3K, you buy, you know, two more micros or three micros. And so you can absolutely use the CVD to base your risk parameters around. Obviously, if I'm trading a brand new eval account, I'm not going in this much size. I'm not going to let myself take 3K worth of heat on a trade. And that's where you guys will have to figure out your own risk tolerance. I like to start with one micro initially, and then if I have to DCA, I DCA from there. This morning I had my trade window set to 5, and so I ended up going in with 5. And it's like So I trust the order flow. I don't worry so much about what the price is doing. I'm seeing that there's aggressive buying coming in. I'm seeing that, yes, price is continuing to fall, but at some point, right, the aggressive buyers will absolutely overpower these limit sellers. And whether it's going to happen right now or in 10 minutes, there's aggressive buying that's taking place. And once it actually flips, it will go higher. So you guys don't have to, maybe I need to put a disclaimer, right? Like, do not copy my trades because you're not, everybody's got their own trading psychology, everybody has their own risk limits, and everybody, like, I can't possibly know what everybody is trading account size wise and what their own personal limits are. So, you guys, I'm just trying to show you how I trade and show you what I look at each day and how to get in alignment with the aggressive participants when the aggressive participants are right. So the more I see delta fall, the I guess the more aggressive I get in my buying because I want to see. I know, right? Like there's a probability that it's going to bounce at some point. And just trying to catch that bounce and trying to time it just right. And yeah, there's kind of an art to it, so to speak, and it's not necessarily for everybody. But I think Travis is on the right track, putting, if you're like, hey, I'm a volume profile guy and like that's my jam. Like I just really resonate with volume profile. I really like volume profile. Then by all means, take what I'm showing you and use that um, for your benefit. I'm just trying to show you guys kind of how to look at the order book and how to base trades around the CVD and not get so fixated on price levels because the price is really the advertisement, right? They're really kind of tricking you and manipulating you one way or the other. And so that's why I just try to look at the order flow and go with the orders. And sometimes you're in positions where you're buying when everybody else is panic selling. But when you're buying and when everybody else is panic selling, that means that you're really getting the best price, right? And that's really ultimately what it comes down to is buying low and selling high. So right now, to me, price is low, right? We're at a point where people are like, "Oh my gosh, if it breaks this level, it's gonna drop." But when you look at it, yeah, price is falling, but what's happening in the order book? There's nothing but buying. And not only is there nothing but buying, but what kind of buying is it, right? It's aggressive buying, right? It's aggressive buying from large institutions that are they're seeing price drop so quickly, right? They're like, "Ooh, this is a really sweet spot for us to buy." And this is what we want to be in alignment with is this aggression, right? And then at some point, right, it's I don't know. Like it just to me it makes sense, but I've seen it so much that um I don't know. It's in my blood, I guess, or in my brain, or however you want to think about it. And for me, it makes sense and it works. Um, there's tons of people that are waiting for this low to be swept, and it may never get swept, right? The ICT traders that are waiting for this right here to get taken out, um, it hasn't happened yet, and it may not happen. So I just try to put myself, like I said, in alignment with these guys. And for me, the RTH, what happens, if it's the overnight session and I'm trading the overnight, then yeah, I really pay attention to the ETH, right? The extended session, um, delta. But once RTH happens, right, then I'm really looking at those market participants that happened from, from this point forward. So let's see if they can actually break it here. I'm going to take some of these off and just take an L, but that's okay. Be right back, guys. Finish this here. All right, I'm back. Looks like that worked out. So you guys can see how I'm not going to say that the entire order book is flipped, but it it's flipped, right? Price fell, did not get down and sweep that low. And in the face of all of that, right, we have nothing but aggressive buying. So again, like it's trying to get yourself in alignment with with the order flow itself. And it takes time, right? There's some morning, so like right now, okay? So let's just break this down a little bit because the session opened right here. It went positive. There's limit order selling. There's limit order selling, pushing basically pushing price down, and we have this negative delta. The negative delta did not it didn't even get down to this 1K level. So the sellers that were in the market were not really they didn't have that much conviction because they started to let off the gas, right? And then you have nothing but overwhelming buying that comes in and goes back positive, delta neutral. Now, if the delta had done this, right, it came down, come back to delta neutral, and then sold off, I would have gotten out, right? And I'd taken a $3,000 or $4,000 loss. But it didn't do that, right? I got into with too much size because I went in with 5 micros and ended up having a DCA heavier. But aside from that, right, that right there tells us then, hey, the sellers are absolutely in control. But that's not what happened. Is that yeah, the sellers came in hard and fast out of the gate, um, but then they just didn't have the steam, right? The conviction to continue to sell it short. And so aggressive buying comes in. And if you guys understand how accumulation happens, right? If you're wanting to be a buyer, you have to have you've got to have limit orders selling in your face in order for you to accumulate a position in order to go higher. So again, it's interesting that the sellers didn't even get it down to negative 1K delta, and the buyers went positive, right, on RTH. The buyers have so much conviction that they're continuing to buy at new levels, right? And they're showing much more aggression from my perspective, right, than the sellers are at this point. Irregardless of whatever these horizontal levels are, okay? You can get yourself into trouble because you'll see a horizontal level in your chart, right? If we look back at I keep forgetting that I have to switch the actual stream focus, but you guys understand what I'm saying. Like these white lines were lows that we had marked out in the previous day's VWAP, and this is another low. You can get in trouble because you will get fixated on this saying this has to sweep this low, right? No, it doesn't have to do anything. It's all based on the order book and what it's showing you. So um, I hope that makes sense. So now the buyers, right? Aggressive buyers are in control. And so we're going to look for pullbacks at this point, right? We want to find pullbacks back to, I probably wouldn't buy on a pullback. If you weren't in down here, I probably would not buy on a pullback to 2K when it's really sitting at 2,500. I would wait for a pullback to 1K, pullback to this previous kind of RTH high swing point area, right? So let's say price continues to go higher, goes higher, goes higher. if you're looking, and we want to see it break this level, right? But you could do, this is where the other tools that you guys use, I think, can come into play. You can do, a fixed range volume profile of this leg up. You could, you know, um, lean on VWAP, whatever other tool you're using. This is where I would probably put it into play. Um, Now I understand, right, from an auction market theory perspective that we have a high volume node that built out right here at the open. I don't know whether or not it's going to break, right? It could. If it does break, then that gives you even more conviction, right? Like it'll show us how aggressive the buyers really are, how much conviction they actually have, right? So that's just, again, how I look at it. So I hope it makes sense. Again, I'm not telling you guys that it's the only way to trade. I just think it's helpful to have an understanding of the order book. And, I'm always looking at what are they doing and what are they failing to do. The session overall was negative. There was aggressive selling. They didn't continue, and we get this, it's a push higher. Where it goes from here, I don't know, but I took some heat, right? If you guys can't take $3,000 in heat or 5K in heat, then juice, use smaller size. You don't have to, please do not copy my trades. It's not about that at all. Generally, I don't want to DCA into positions. I want to add into winners. So, but the thing is that you don't always know when you're going to be in a winner. Um, like it's, it sounds nice in theory, but the reality of it is that sometimes you have to kind of work your way into a trade. And there's people that are wanting to buy down here. They may not get the chance to. Um, if you guys are trading a small account, like a 50K account or a small personal account, I would say don't try to get involved in this open, right? It's the open. So these these two major forces, right, buyers and sellers, are coming together at a very powerful inflection. Like it's just this maelstrom of volume and conviction. And it takes a while for it to get sorted out. So if you're trading a small account, right, you do not have to be in the middle of accumulation, right? Which can be messy, it can be rangy, it can be volatile. You don't have to be in the middle of a distribution, right? If you're trading in a high volume node, right, then you're going to get chopped up, right? So let it let it prove to you which direction it wants to go. And so don't, I guess that's it, right? If you know that once it's going directional and you're starting to see the alignment between the aggressive buyers or aggressive sellers and price, then put yourself in alignment with it. Look for pullbacks, right? If I'm going short, I want to see this thing sell off from the RTH, maybe bounce a little bit, break through the 1K level, pop down to 2K, and now that the aggressive buyers and price or aggressive sellers and price are in alignment, I'm looking for a pullback to the 1K to get short, or I'm looking for a pullback to, you know, RTH neutral to get short, and then you take that short trade back down. Like just trade either a counter trend trade on a 2K or a with the trend trade at delta neutral or off of one of the K levels. You've got to be patient and let price show you the kind of confirmation, so to speak. And you don't have to get involved at the open like that, right? Because like I said, it can be messy at times, especially if you're trying to trade a small account, right? Because you're going to get stopped out a bunch. Like you're going to get wrecked. So I took some profits off this. I'm not going to let it come all the way back down against me, but for the time being, the buyers are still in control. I don't see any reason to exit the trade. Um, yes, we know, right? There's a little high volume node right here. And if, could that be a resistance level? Absolutely. That could absolutely turn into a resistance level. I guarantee that there's like a point of control going right through that, but I would not short that until you see some kind of, again, shift in the order flow, right? You would want to see these aggressive buyers come up and for this thing to start breaking back down below these major levels before, trying to short it. Don't short it just because there's a high volume node there. Because again, watch the order book. We're taught, and this is important for you guys to understand, that we're taught that right here, right above this high volume node or above this um, swing point, we're taught that there's a bunch of stops right there, right? But we don't know that. Like you can speculate that, but you don't really know that there's a bunch of stop orders sitting right there. Especially it always cracks me up when guys are looking back on the chart. They're looking back 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks or 2 or 3 months, and they're seeing these swing highs and these swing lows, and they're saying, well, there's stops there. Dude, don't you think that if 3 months ago Chase or JP Morgan bought the low of an FOMC day, that they've still got stop losses there? They've already taken profits and they're already short. Like there's not stops that are sitting there from large institutions. There's not stops that are sitting there from 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. There might be some small one-off, traders that have stops there that are swing traders, independent swing traders, but institutions are managing massive positions. They're constantly taking profits, and adjusting their positions, and they're doing it in a way that is absolutely way more efficient than you and I manage our trades. So, are there some stops here? Yeah, there's some stops here, but that doesn't mean that they're going to run those stops and then this thing's going to sell off the rest of the day. People talk about price like that, and you just don't know. That's why it's so important to look at the order book and see what the actual order flow is telling you, is so that way you don't get right manipulated. Anyway, I guess I'm feeling froggy this morning because I've got all this sugar going through me from last night, and I've basically got zero sleep because my kids wanted to stay up and watch Spider-Man all night. So, um, we're hitting this 3K level here, and we just wait and see if somebody is going to aggressively step in here. Think about all the people that think about all the people that shorted right here, because that's what we're taught to do, right? We're taught to Oh, price made an extension down. Therefore, I need to be shorting VWAP. You just got wrecked. All right. I'm going to take a screenshot of this. I'm probably going to exit this and do a quick write-up and be done for the day. At this point, it doesn't really matter to me what happens the rest of the day. I'm not trying to predict it or anything like that. Got into a trade, took some heat, and I'm finishing the day up. And so I'm going to exit, and that's it, right? Ends up being a good day. So nice, brother. I'm glad to hear that. Get the data. Yeah. If you, I said this to somebody else who was coming from NinjaTrader. If you guys are using NinjaTrader, you don't have to convert to Sierra chart. I mean, you and I have talked about it about how Sierra chart's just lighter weight, etc. And there's benefits to doing it. But for those of you who are locked in with NinjaTrader, like maybe you have a lifetime license or whatever, you can keep using it. Just add the delta to your chart. And if you're trading with NinjaTrader and hold on, I'm gonna just screenshot this again here. Yeah. So another chart book that I have. Let me zoom in on it real quick. So for the longest time, what I would do. So again, I'm just looking at the delta. Now this morning, right? It sold off, and then we started to get aggressive buying. And so, but you'll have some mornings where ETH session will do this, right? It'll sell off hard, and then you'll open like right here. Oops. Can you see that yellow line, Ryan? So maybe you'll open right here, and then it'll continue selling from that. So on one hand, it's it's almost nice to see where the delta opens up in context to or in relation to the overall session. I do think that that's valuable, um, because if it opens lower, right, then that's again, if it opens lower and it sells off, that's telling you something, right? There's been aggressive selling all morning. We open lower, it continues to sell off. That means that there's really heavy selling in the market, right? And that there's literally 1,000 different or 1,000 contracts that are still being held short because this is again it's a measurement of the market orders themselves. So if your session or your RTH opens right here and continues to sell off, that tells me that the sellers have a lot of conviction. That's not what happened this morning though, right? So this morning we have aggressive selling in the overnight, but then it basically came back to delta neutral on the session. And this is what I wanted to zoom in on, is that if we take off this delta neutral line right here. Come on, do I have two of them on there? Okay, so if we take off that delta neutral line, right here is where ETH ended, and right here is where RTH started. And so RTH starts pretty close. We're positive. And again, we come from an overnight session that was aggressive selling, but now we're back positive, right? And then once we have RTH open, it pushes up and then it pushes back down, but then it fails, right? That aggression fails to continue to go lower, and then basically it flips. So I do think it's important to note where RTH is opening in relation to the overall session. But what you can do is just draw a line. You know, if NinjaTrader only gives you the full session delta, which is one of the main reasons why I switched to CR chart, because I wanted to be able to give myself a custom, you know, representation of where delta was at. You can just draw that line. You can just draw that line, and you know it'll tell you. Um, and I play with it. Sometimes I go back and forth on it. Lately, I've been trying to. Okay, so one of my it, and one of my weak spots or things that I'm working on is understanding this this opening battle, right? Like I would find myself having to wait and wait and wait and wait for trades, and so I've been paying more attention to this. What is happening off of the RTH open, and how do I get in alignment with that earlier? And yeah, it can be difficult, that's for sure. So let's see I know some of you guys are using the fixed range volume profile, which again, I think the fixed range volume profile is an excellent tool for helping you join the trend. That thing is not displaying very well. Let me fix that. There we go. So, there's some high volume, low volume nodes that are in there. And if you guys, I think Leon and Travis, you guys are using the volume profiles, just look for alignment, right? Just look for alignment. And again, I'm not telling you to take a trade here or anything like that. But, there's a little low volume node there. You absolutely can wait for a pullback to that, right? And just, you want to try to see there be alignment with one of these delta levels, again, because the buyers right now are showing their conviction, right? Um, you want to look for alignment. There's a little, I'm going to make this a little bit wider so it sticks out a little more. Let's go with 100. We can see that people call this a volume ledge or high volume node edge, or I mean, there's all kinds of different, you know, volume profile, auction market theory terms for this, but these volume ledges, right? See that kind of get swept. There's basically we got like a high volume node here, kind of a high volume node here. It's putting in volume up here. So that's good in the sense that values being accepted. If I were to draw if we draw a volume profile for this leg down, oh man, hold on. I don't have I need to set the default settings. You can see I don't use this a whole lot. Set defaults. I'll redraw it. So this is kind of, this was the high volume node that we talked about a little bit. And anytime that, so if we draw the extended rectangle, how do I not have a hotkey for that? So if you extend that rectangle forward, that high volume node forward, if price was really, and Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, or from your perspective, brother, if the sellers were really had a lot of conviction, right, you would not want to see price come up and really break this volume profile, point of control POC of this, which is kind of this midline of this box. So, price is kind of pushed back into this area of prior value. We know that it's prior value because there is an agreement here between buyers and sellers just after the open, right? They're agreeing that this is a fair price, but then value was, then the sellers came in. The sellers said, no, this is too high. They pushed it down to a point to where the buyers are like, whoa, this is deeply discounted. Let's buy this back up. And it snaps up. So now price is right back where we opened at. It pushed back into this value area. And not only did it push into this value area, it didn't get rejected from this point of control, right? I'm not saying it's the point of control on the day, but it's the point of control for that high volume node right there, which occurred at the open. Price pushed right back to it. There was not a strong rejection right here at the high volume node edge. It did not, get pushed back down from there. Didn't get pushed back down from the point of control, and it went all the way to this kind of upper edge here, and now we're starting to see some selling. So to me, that, and again, I don't know what Travis's take on it. I'd be interested to hear, but if I'm looking to really short this, I want to see these sellers get aggressive as this thing is getting close to the area in which they were initiating their positions. But you're just not seeing aggressive selling here at this high volume node edge. There's no aggressive selling here at the, the VPOC or volume point of control. And there's some selling here, right? But we're kind of pulling back into an area where buyers, aggressive buyers did step in, and you've got some kind of confluence for things to go higher. I don't know. It's interesting. It's always fascinating. There's no right answer, guys. You need to understand that. Like there's no right answer that that all you're trying to do is put yourself on the right side of probabilities, right? Um, it's surprising that it's sold off so hard, and then they're not really selling it hard again. So, all right, I've got my mic on. I'm done trading for the day, and I'm gonna make another cup of coffee. But you guys, let's just chat, right? This is your time to. You got me for probably the next, I don't know, hour or so. I'm here to answer questions, help you guys. My intention is not to say that this is the way that you should trade. It's not about any of that. about, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I picked up on. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses as traders, and I think this is unique in the sense that it's not just, hey guys, here's the cumulative volume delta. Yes, Travis is right. If you guys are looking at composite values, either TPO chart or volume profile, right? Anytime it peaks below and comes back up, it's called like a look below and fail. Um, look above and fail, look above and go. I do think that stuff is important for kind of context. Yeah, it's all good stuff. Travis, can you post a picture for them to see that what you're talking about? I don't have a composite volume profile or chart up, so okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's great. Go ahead. Go ahead. for sure. And the thing that I mean, I think that everybody should do a deep dive into option market theory. It will really help you guys understand, you know, value and kind of, you know, higher time frame market participant, you know, positioning and things like that. It is important because it is an auction process, and ultimately, you know, price can only go up or down. So it is really just a vertical price scale, and areas where it spends more time, right, and builds more volume are meaningful. Those are areas where, like Travis said earlier on, the buyers and sellers are agreeing on price. And so when there's that agreement or there's that consolidation, right, whatever you want to call it, in an area, there's value that's like there's billions and billions of dollars worth of contracts that are being bought and sold there. And then when it leaves that area value and it goes directional, right, or it becomes imbalanced, which is what, you know, it is in auction market theory, when it becomes imbalanced or out of balance, then it's traveling to another area where buyers and sellers agree on price. So when you understand that, it is very, very helpful, right, to give you that higher time frame context. And I like to, you know, also use, I'm basically using the VWAPs as a simplified version for context for me. And it's only because I have, you know, only so much screen space. And for me, I had to be able to quickly find trades, and work, you know, when you're trading funded accounts, you're forced, right? Really, I'm not saying that you're forced literally, but to try to trade every day. So I had to adapt my trading style to a way in which I could sit down in my chair and I could take a trade, because I might have to, you know, take my kids to get their teeth cleaned. We're doing something at church. We're doing a ball game. Like I was coaching baseball for my son's little league team, and I just had to have flexibility. And for me, when I went down the auction market theory route at that time, um, it was not giving me clear signals, right? Maybe I didn't understand it well enough to buy and sell at certain points on a TPO chart or on a volume profile chart. Um, since then, right, I've come to understand a lot more and understand the auction process a lot better. So I think for you guys, you know, Travis posted a trade yesterday and it was great, right? It was confluence between things. And I know that well, one second. I know that, you know, Charlie and Luna, they're coming from kind of an ICT standpoint, and I think that it's fine, right? Wherever you're coming from, it's fine. Just, you know, there's a lot more to the market, and the more that you understand it, the better you're going to be as a trader, right? If you know, you start leaning on some volume profiles, you know, the thing I think ICT does a good job of is it helps people focus on, like, you know, the better you are going to have better trades when there's a sweep of higher time frame liquidity, right? But the thing, I say liquidity, and I just talked with you guys about how there's not really a bunch of stops that are sitting there. But a sweep of a higher time frame high or a low, yeah, you're going to get, you know, it's just because there's better risk to reward. You're doing a better job of buying low and selling high at that point. But there's a lot more to it, right? There's an entire order book of information that's there in the background. There's, you know, all of the volume is absolutely telling you guys something, and I think to ignore all of that is really you're really limiting yourself to just candlesticks. And for me, I could care less what the candlesticks are doing. All that I want to see is, I want to see price stall. I want to see it be pushed, you know, one direction really, really hard and then fail to go that way, right? That failure to continue to go in one direction and to reverse, that's a key thing for me. And when that happens, like Travis said, at an area of, that's at the edge of a value area, like he posted in the screenshot there, that's an indication to buy or to sell. And there's just a lot to it, and everybody has to find a way that's, that resonates with them, and it just takes time, right? It takes looking at charts. It takes trying different trading platforms. Find something that you resonate with. If volume profile is you're resonating with it, or TPO you're starting to resonate with it, or CVD you're starting to resonate with it, then spend some time with it. The key is to, like, don't quit your job. Don't put $100,000 in the market. Don't buy $50,000 worth of evals. Like, give yourself time to understand this trading game, right? And don't put so much pressure on yourself. So I want to talk about this. I bought simply because, just again, one micro, simply because seller or buyers have been aggressive, right? So I bought on this 2K pullback here with the VWAP and kind of this, volume node here. But really more of an illustration to show you guys, like, yes, there are times that this fixed range volume profile is helpful. I don't look at ES a lot, Charlie. That's a great question. Only because I just don't have the screen space for it. Now, what I will do is have an ES chart book on the left, right? Kind of what you guys are looking at here, an ES chart book on the left and an NQ chart book on the right. And then in the middle, I will have, here, I'm going to take a screenshot. It'll be easier for me to open this chart book up for you. The chart book that you guys are seeing now is not the one that I like to trade off of. It is the one that I've tailored um, to trying to stream. Okay, so let me pull this one up and I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. If I can get it to display here. Just give me a second. It's loading. Where is I have too many chart books. That's the problem. duplicate this. Do it this way. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about this real quick. So, I almost tried to do this just more of a demonstration trade here. Make sure that you guys are looking at this one. So you can see how really none of those levels that, oh, okay, let me change it here. I've got too many chart books open and I'm running OBS to YouTube, so let me close a few things out here so